Alright, so our database is all set up and it is ready to store some data. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to close out these designer tabs we don't need anymore. I'm going to refresh my Server Explorer. So let's start by adding a few ingredients. I'm going to right click my ingredient table, click Show Table Data, and Visual Studio gives us a nice little grid to just jam some data in for testing. So for ingredients, let's have lettuce and cheese. And you'll notice since we set that isIdentity property to true on the ID column, it's incrementing by 1, which keeps these values unique, and that's how we'll reference these ingredients later. And let's add one more ingredient, a tomato. Okay, I'm going to save that. Let's add a recipe. So we're going to make a salad recipe. Say it takes 30 minutes, and instructions are combined stuff. And then we'll do a low-fat salad, 20 minutes, combine less stuff. Okay, this table is a little bit trickier. So we need to associate ingredients to recipes. So let's take our salad recipe with an ID of 1. So we're going to put that in the recipe ID column, and we need to associate an ingredient to that recipe. So our salad is going to have all three of these: lettuce, cheese, tomato. So here I'm going to create an association between the salad and the lettuce, which had the ID of 1, the salad and the cheese, which had an ID of 2, and the salad and the tomato with an ID of 3. Okay? So let's do the same thing with our low-fat salad. That has a recipe ID of 2, and since it's low-fat, we'll leave out the cheese. So we only want to associate it with the lettuce and tomato ingredients, which have IDs of 1 and 3. So I'm going to say 1 and 3. So our low-fat salad here only references these ingredients. Okay? So that data is done. I'm going to close out of these. And now we can write some SQL and pull some data out of our database and make sure it's in there before we try to hook it up with C# code. So I'm going to right click my database and hit New Query, and it connects to our database by default. So I'm going to type select all from recipe, and you'll notice we get our 2 recipes down here. Select all from ingredient, and we get our 3 ingredients. So now we're going to query our associative table, and we are going to find out which ingredients are tied to which recipes. So I'm going to say select all from ingredient. I'm going to say select a.name from ingredient A, and this is an alias. I'm going to interjoin recipe ingredient B on a.id, so that's the ingredient table and ID column, equals the ingredient ID column on the recipe ingredient table. So if you want to understand this fully, you need to know how joins work in SQL queries. And I'm going to say where b dot recipe ID is equal to 1. And if you remember from our recipe table, the salad is the recipe with the ID of 1. So I expect this to pull back all ingredients that are part of my salad recipe, which would be lettuce, tomato, and cheese. Okay? So my low-fat salad had an ID of 2, and that should only pull back lettuce and tomato. Perfect. So these are just some basic select queries that we can use, and we will implement those in our C# code to pull back similar data and display it to the user. So now I'm going to try an update statement. I'm going to say update recipe set name equal to salad deluxe, where ID equals 1. And we know that's the salad recipe. So we're just going to update the name. I'm going to highlight just this query and hit execute. One row affected. So if we pull back our recipe data again, you can now see the name's been updated. So I'm going to change that back to salad. Okay. So now let's try an insert statement. So I'm going to say insert into recipe values, and since this is an auto increment ID column, we don't have to specify that value, it'll do it automatically. So I'm going to give it a name of salad 4, prep time of 50 minutes, and instructions combine. Okay. Highlight that query and run it. One row affected, so if we pull back our recipes again, now we have our salad 4. So we don't need to keep that, so we can go ahead and run a delete statement also. Delete from recipe where ID equals 4. And yours will probably say 3. I had to pause the video, and I had ran another insert statement just to test it. So I had already used the ID of 3. So I'm going to run this. Pull back our recipes one more time. And we're back to the data we had. So that's the basic kind of SQL queries that you can run. So we know we have our data, and we know how we can use SQL to pull it out of the database. So in the next lesson, we're going to learn how to do that through C#, how to get C# to use our SQL queries and query the database and show that database to the user through a Windows Forms application.